The small town of Willow Creek, Texas, hummed with the gentle warmth of spring in 2025. Wildflowers dotted the roadsides, their yellow and purple heads swaying in the breeze, while the air carried the faint scent of blooming grasses. Inside Willow Creek Middle School, though, the hallways buzzed with a different energy: laughter, chatter, and the scrape of sneakers against tiled floors. Room 108, the music classroom, was no exception. Sunlight streamed through the wide windows, casting golden patches on the worn wooden floor, but the room felt stifling to Mia Torres. Mia, a 14-year-old girl with dark hair tied back in a messy ponytail, slipped into her usual spot at the back of the class. She was small for her age, her faded jeans and oversized hoodie making her look even tinier. Around her neck hung a pair of old earbuds, the cord frayed from years of use. She pulled them out of her bag and plugged them into her phone, letting the soft hum of a violin concerto drown out the noise of her classmates. Music was her secret world, a place where she didn't feel judged for her quiet voice or the fact that her family lived in a trailer on the edge of town. The bell rang, and the new music teacher, Mrs. Harper, strode into the room. She was tall, with graying hair pulled into a tight bun, and carried herself with the kind of confidence that demanded attention. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice crisp. "Today, we're doing something different. Each of you will perform a short piece for the class. No excuses." Mia's stomach dropped. She sank lower in her seat, her fingers tightening around her earbuds. Performing? In front of everyone? She'd never played her violin for anyone but herself. Not even her mom knew how much time she spent with it. The instrument, a scratched-up hand-me-down from her late father, was her only treasure. She played it late at night, when the trailer was quiet, letting the notes carry her dreams far beyond Willow Creek. Mrs. Harper scanned the room, her eyes landing on Mia. "Mia Torres," she called, her tone sharp. "You're up first." The room went quiet, then erupted in whispers. A boy named Jake muttered, smirking. "She doesn't even talk. What's she gonna do?" A few giggles followed. Mia's cheeks burned as she stood, clutching her backpack where her violin hid. She wanted to disappear, but Mrs. Harper waved her forward. "Come on, don't waste our time." Mia shuffled to the front, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She unzipped her bag and pulled out the violin, its wood chipped but gleaming faintly in the sunlight. The class stared, some with curiosity, most with doubt. She wasn't ready for this. Not at all. Mia stood at the front of room 108, the violin trembling in her hands. The strings felt cold against her fingertips, and the bow seemed heavier than usual. She glanced at Mrs. Harper, whose arms were crossed, one eyebrow raised as if she expected Mia to fail. Behind her, the class buzzed with quiet snickers. "She's gonna mess this up," a girl named Sarah whispered, loud enough for Mia to hear. Jake leaned back in his chair, arms folded, a grin spreading across his face. "Bet she doesn't even know how to hold it right." Mia's throat tightened. She wanted to run back to her seat, back to the trailer, back to the safety of her locked bedroom door where no one could judge her. She'd spent years hiding her music, playing alone after her mom fell asleep. Her dad had taught her the basics before he passed away when she was 8. And since then, she'd taught herself, piecing together melodies from videos online. She'd even started writing her own songs, raw, aching tunes about her mom's late shifts at the diner, the trailer's leaky roof, the way the stars looked brighter when everything else felt dark. But those were for her, not them. "Well?" Mrs. Harper snapped, tapping her foot. "Play something. Anything." Mia swallowed hard. Her hands shook as she lifted the violin to her chin, the familiar weight grounding her just enough to keep going. She closed her eyes, blocking out the stairs, and pictured her room her safe place. The bow hovered over the strings for a moment, Then she played. The first note was shaky, a thin wobble that made Jake snort. But Mia kept going, her fingers finding the strings by memory. She didn't play the simple scales they'd learned in class. Instead, she slipped into one of her own songs, a melody she'd written after a storm had torn through town, leaving their trailer shivering in the wind. The notes started soft, hesitant, like rain tapping on a window. Then they grew, swelling, into something fierce and alive, a sound that carried all the weight of her quiet life. The room changed. The whispers stopped. Jake's grin faded, and Sarah sat up straighter, her mouth slightly open. Mia didn't see it. She was lost in the music, her bow dancing across the strings. The song told a story. Her mom's tired smiles, the creak of the trailer's steps, the dream she buried under her pillow each night. It wasn't perfect. Her timing slipped once, and a string squeaked, but it was real, raw. Beautiful dot when the last note faded, Mia opened her eyes. The classroom was silent, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest. She lowered the violin, her hands still trembling, and dared to look around. Mrs. Harper's arms had dropped to her sides. Her stern face softened with something Mia couldn't name. Sarah's eyes were wet, and even Jake looked stunned, his smirk gone. "What was that?" Mrs. Harper finally said, her voice quieter than before. Mia shifted, clutching the violin to her chest. "Something I made up," she mumbled, barely audible. "You made that?" Sarah blurted, her voice sharp with disbelief. A few heads nodded, and someone in the back clapped, once, then again. The sound spread, tentative at first, then louder, filling the room. Mia's face burned, but this time it wasn't shame. It was something new, something warm. Mrs. Harper stepped closer, her eyes locked on Mia. "That was extraordinary," she said. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Mia shrugged, her voice small. "My dad, and videos. I just figured it out." The bell rang, snapping the class out of its trance. Students grabbed their bags, still stealing glances at Mia as they filed out. "That was insane," Jake muttered to Sarah, his tone more awe than mockery now. Mia stayed rooted to the spot, unsure what to do with the weight of their attention. "Wait," Mrs. Harper called as Mia turned to leave. "Stay a minute." Mia hesitated, then nodded. Once the room emptied, Mrs. Harper leaned against her desk, studying her. "Mia, I owe you an apology," she began. "I thought you were just another kid coasting through my class. I was wrong. You've got a gift, a real one." Mia blinked, unsure how to respond. "It's okay," she said softly. "No, it's not," Mrs. Harper replied, her voice firm. "You shouldn't be hiding something like that. There's a regional music competition next month. I want you to enter. I'll help you prepare." Mia's heart raced. A competition? With judges and crowds? "I don't know," she stammered. "I'm not good with people watching me." "You were today," Mrs. Harper said, a rare smile tugging at her lips. "Think about it. You could go far, Mia. Farther than this town." That night, Mia sat on her bed, the violin resting beside her. She told her mom everything, Mrs. Harper's words, the clapping, the offer. Her mom, Rosa, sat across from her, her hands rough from years at the diner. "I used to dream of music too," Rosa said, her eyes distant, "but I let it go." "Don't do that, Mia. Play. Show them who you are." Mia hugged her knees, the idea both thrilling and terrifying. Could she really do this? The weeks leading up to the competition felt like a storm brewing inside Mia. She'd said yes to Mrs. Harper, but doubt gnawed at her every day. After school, she stayed in room 108, the violin strings humming under her fingers as Mrs. Harper coached her. "Slow down here," the teacher would say, tapping the music stand. "Let the notes breathe. You're telling a story, make them feel it. Mia nodded, her hands sweaty, and tried again. Her song grew stronger. Its quiet opening now a gentle pull, its middle a fierce cry, its end a soft promise. She practiced until her shoulders ached, until the trailer's thin walls vibrated with sound late into the night. But the closer the competition got, the louder the whispers at school became. Sarah had warmed to Mia after that day in class, but others hadn't. A group of girls led by a tall 8th grader named Lindsay watched her with narrowed eyes. She thinks she's some big deal now, Lindsay sneered one day in the cafeteria, loud enough for Mia to hear over the clatter of trays. That violin's a piece of trash. She's gonna embarrass herself. Mia shrank into her hoodie, her tray of lukewarm fries forgotten. What if Lindsay was right? What if she froze on stage, her bow slipping, her notes sour? The thought clung to her like damp clothes after rain. At home, Rosa saw the storm in her daughter's eyes. One evening, as Mia sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at her violin case, Rosa knelt beside her. "You're scared," she said softly, her voice warm but warm. Mia nodded, her throat tight. "I wanted to play guitar once," Rosa continued, her gaze drifting to the window where the sun sank behind the trees. "I was good, Mia, really good. But I let people's words stop me, my parents, my friends, even strangers. They said I'd never make it, that girls like us don't get to dream big. I quit, and I've regretted it every day since." She took Mia's hand, her rough fingers squeezing gently. "Don't let fear win. You're stronger than I was." Mia's chest ached. She thought of her mom's hands, cracked from dishwater, trembling from exhaustion, and the guitar that never was. She didn't want that regret. "Okay," she whispered, her voice shaky but sure. "I'll try." The day of the competition arrived too fast. The auditorium in Austin loomed like a giant, its high ceiling and red curtains swallowing the chatter of the crowd. Backstage, Mia clutched her violin, its chipped wood stark against the sleek cases of the other performers. A boy with a polished cello tuned his strings nearby, his fingers steady, his posture confident. A girl with a gleaming flute practiced scales, her notes sharp and perfect. Mia's stomach twisted. Her violin looked like it belonged in a junkyard, not here. She tugged at her hoodie, wishing she'd worn something nicer, something that didn't scream. Poor Mrs. Harper found her pacing behind a curtain. "Nerves?" she asked, her tone softer than usual. Mia nodded, her mouth dry. "Good," the teacher said, surprising her. "Nerves mean you care. Use them." And Mia, she placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's not the violin that matters. It's you." When her name echoed through the speakers, Mia Torres, Willow Creek Middle School, her legs felt like jelly. She stepped onto the stage, the lights blinding, the crowd a blurry sea of faces. Hundreds of eyes locked on her, waiting. Her bow trembled as she lifted it, the silence pressing against her ribs. She wanted to run, to hide, to be anywhere but here. Then she saw her mom in the third row, a diner uniform peeking out from under a borrowed jacket, her tired eyes shining with pride. And she remembered her dad, his rough voice humming as he taught her scales, his smile when she got them right. Mia closed her eyes and played. The first notes stumbled, thin and frail, but she pushed through. The song unfolded her song, starting with the quiet of her trailer at night, the creak of the floorboards, the wind rattling the windows. Then it surged, fierce and wild, carrying the weight of her mom's long shifts, the sting of Lindsay's words, the ache of wanting more. Her fingers steadied, the bow slicing through the air, each note a piece of her soul laid bare. She forgot the crowd, the judges, the shaky start. It was just her and the music, like all those nights alone. Halfway through, she dared to look. The audience leaned forward, some with hands clasped, others with tears glinting in the stage lights. A judge scribbled furiously, his glasses slipping down his nose. Mia's heart pounded, but she didn't falter. She thought of her mom's words, "Don't let fear win and let the final note soar." Soft and strong, a promise to herself. When the last sound faded, she stood there, breathless, the violin limp in her hands. The silence broke. Applause erupted, a wave crashing over her. People standing, shouting, clapping until her ears rang. Mia blinked, dazed, as the sound washed through her. She'd done it. Really done it. Backstage, Mrs. Harper pulled Mia into a hug. Her usual sternness gone. "I knew you could," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. Mia clutched her violin, still shaking from the rush of it all. Later, the judges called her name again. First place. The crowd cheered as she stepped forward, her hands trembling around a small trophy. Then came the real shock. A scholarship to a summer music program in Dallas. Full funding. A chance to study with real musicians. Mia couldn't speak, just nodded. Her eyes burning with tears she didn't let fall. Monday morning at Willow Creek Middle felt like stepping into a different world. As Mia walked into room 108, the class erupted. "Mia!" Jake shouted, jumping up to high-five her, his grin wide. "You're a legend." Sarah, who'd been cold at first, smiled shyly. "I'm sorry about before," she said, twisting her hands. That was amazing. Even Lindsay, standing by the door, gave a grudging nod before looking away. Mia blushed, mumbling a quiet thanks, but inside she stood taller. For once, the attention didn't make her want to hide. Mrs. Harper started the lesson, her voice lighter than usual. She glanced at Mia often, a flicker of pride in her eyes. After class, she pulled her aside. "You've started something, Mia," she said, leaning against her desk. "Not just for you, for everyone. Don't stop now." Mia nodded, clutching her violin case. She wouldn't stop. Not anymore. Word spread fast. By lunch, kids crowded around her table, begging her to play again. "Just a little?" A boy named Tim asked, his eyes wide. Mia hesitated, then pulled out her violin and played a short, bright tune she'd been tinkering with. The chatter stopped, replaced by smiles and soft claps. Teachers stopped her in the halls, too. "Heard about Austin, Mr. Gomez," the science teacher said with a grin. "Knew you had it in you." Mia wasn't used to it. The nods, the smiles, the pats on the back, but slowly she let it sink in. She'd spent so long being invisible, blending into the walls, but now she liked being seen. That summer, Mia turned the trailer's cramped living room into a classroom. She started teaching violin to kids from her neighborhood, kids like her, with big dreams and small pockets. Most couldn't afford lessons or instruments, so she lent them her violin, showing them how to hold it, how to draw a clean note. "You don't need much," she'd say, echoing her dad's old lessons. "Just start." Their faces lit up when they played their first shaky scales, and Mia felt a warmth she hadn't known before. She was giving them what she'd found a chance. One afternoon, as she tuned the violin for a 6-year-old named Carla, Rosa watched from the doorway. Her diner uniform hung loose after a double shift, but her eyes glowed. "You're doing good, Mia," she said, her voice soft. "Better than I ever did." Mia paused, the tuning peg still in her hand. "I think Dad would like this," she said, glancing at the old photo on the wall. Her father, young and laughing, his violin propped on his shoulder. Rosa nodded, wiping her eyes. He'd be so proud. That evening, Mia sat at the kitchen table, the trailer quiet except for the hum of crickets outside. She picked up the violin and played a new song lighter than her competition piece, full of hope about new beginnings. The notes drifted through the open window, mingling with the warm Texas night. She thought about Dallas, the scholarship, the kids she taught. Her future didn't feel small anymore. It stretched wide, like the sky over Willow Creek. Endless and bright-dot at school, Mrs. Harper saw the change too. Mia's courage had rippled outward, quiet but strong. Tim, the shy boy from lunch, brought his guitar to class one day, playing a halting tune he'd written. "Mia said I could," he mumbled, blushing as the class clapped. Mrs. Harper smiled, her stern edges softening. She'd learned something from Mia, talent hidden unexpected places, and it was her job to find it. She started calling on quieter kids more, giving them space to step forward, and the classroom felt different, kinder, braver, alive. Months later, the school held a talent show. Mia stood on the tiny stage, her violin gleaming under the lights. The crowd, students, parents, teachers, watched as she lifted her bow. She wasn't nervous this time, her hands steady, her breath even. She played her winning song first, its familiar notes filling the gym, then shifted into the new one, the hopeful one. The music danced, light and free, and when she finished, the applause shook the walls. Mia smiled, small but real, and stepped off the stage, her violin tucked under her arm. Later, as she walked home under a sky streaked with pink and gold, Mia thought about where she'd been, the girl who'd play in shadows, afraid of every glance, and where she was now. Dallas waited, and beyond that, maybe more concerts. Recordings, a life built on strings and sound. She didn't know exactly where the music would take her, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The girl who'd once hidden was ready to shine, one note at a time.